you cool cats and kittens. My name's Quinn. I'm here to talk about the basics of a drum kit. I play in 2 local bands in Milwaukee. I play in Ruth Bader Ginsburg as well as Duckling. So let's get started here. The first part of a kit that you're going to focus on is the bass drum right here. When you're setting up a kit, you want to put this down first because you'll center the other aspects of your kit around this bass drum. It's also called a kick drum, and we also bring this with us underneath a carpet. That's a little tip that I didn't really know when I first started playing the drums, that you always want to bring a carpet with you when you're playing places. It will help with the sound of the drums as well as keeping your parts in good shape so that they last longer. Another thing that a lot of drummers do that you'll notice is they might take off or cut little holes in the front of the drum. This will change the sound of the drum. They also will put blankets in the drum, which we have here. This will muffle that a bit and give it a different sound. We also attach the kick pedal to the drum. This comes off and on pretty easily, and we use our foot pedal to hit that drum. Next up, we have the snare drum. It's called the snare drum because of the snares underneath the drum. It's a little bit more versatile than other aspects of the kit because of those snares. They can be played in different ways. They can be played with the snares attached to the drum to get that kind of a sound. And they can also be taken off, and that gives us a more open sound similar to other drums on the kit. Just like that. For this song, we're going to keep the snares on. A lot of rock drumming does keep the snares on the drum to give it that nice, bright sound. Other things that are helpful with the snare drum include using sometimes tape, sometimes adding paper folded up with tape on top, sometimes even putting something like a billfold on top of the drum to keep it sounding the way that you want it to. This particular snare drum is a little tinny, so we have quite a few things going on. In terms of the skins on a drum, you want to make sure that those are in good shape. These little thumbs here can use a key to change the tone of the drums. That's a little bit more advanced, so we don't need to talk about that today, but something to be mindful of if you're playing the drum and wondering why it's sounding a certain way. You might want to bring out a drum key and change the sound. You also want to make sure that all tones sound the same, or else the drum will not sound balanced. Next up, we have the hi-hat right here. This is a 2 cymbal element of the drums. We can adjust the way it falls with this lever right here. Often in rock drumming, we want it a little bit above. And then we also use this foot pedal to keep it open or closed. If it's open, it's going to have a very open sound. If it's closed, it will be closed. There's a lot of different techniques that you can use with just this one element. Oftentimes, as you continue playing, you're going to find what sounds good to you, what works for you, and what works with other people that you're playing with. So there's a lot of different ways to play with that. We also have our floor tom right here, which is a really good sound, a good thing to try to utilize in your drumming. We also have this rag tom right here, which is also a great part to utilize once you get a little bit more advanced. We also have this really large cymbal right here, which is the ride cymbal. This is a light ride cymbal, so it kind of has a nice little sizzle to it. This cymbal is often used in jazz style drumming. It's used for both beats as well as fills, and it gives a lot of texture to the drumming in those styles. We also have a crash cymbal right here, which is often utilized in a lot of rock style drumming. The crash cymbal gives a lot of texture as well, and also a lot of sound. Today we're going to be looking at the Yeah Yeah Yeahs song Gold Lion, and in this song we will only be using these elements of the drum and a little bit of snare and a little bit of crash as well. And last but not least, you have your drum throne right here. I like to call it the throne. You can call it a seat if you want, but this is important to have the right kind of seating for playing so that you're positioned well and that you can hit all aspects of the drum without, hurting your back or having bad posture. If you can get a real drum throne, that's great because that will help a lot as you transition into different kinds of drumming. So yeah, let's get started. Before we get into the actual logistics of the beat, I wanted to just preface by saying that there's a lot of different ways different musicians will use cues and keep track of where they are in a song. For me in particular, if there's lyrics in a song, I'm definitely listening to the lyrics for my personal cues as a drummer. In this particular song, Karen O is a great thing to listen for in terms of different cues in the song. The drums tend to change based on where the lyrics are in a song, so that's great for this particular instance. Overall, there's a basic beat that's being played throughout this song. Certain fills and certain changes happen, but overall we're going to be using the same beat throughout the entirety of the song. And yeah, so I wanted to do that first, and then we can later get into different cues and different ways you can add more texture and hit those hits that the drummer is doing in the song. First off, the song is being played in 4/4. We're going to be hitting the bass drum on the 1 end and the 3 end, and then we'll be using the snare drum on those other beats. So I'll vocalize this to try to help out hearing where we are in terms of the 4/4 beat, and then we'll get started on that. Right now we're going to demonstrate the basic beat that's being played throughout the song generally. A quick note on technique in this song: when we're hitting the bass drum, we're going to be using the ball of our foot. That'll give it that nice clean sound that we're looking for. In terms of the snare drum, in this particular song, the drummer is playing with one hand, it sounds like. It doesn't really matter which one you use. Whatever is easier for you is fine. If you're interested in using more of the kit as you move on, it might be worthwhile to try using your left hand, only because often when you play other beats, you're going to be using your right hand on that hi-hat. So for the purposes of this, we'll be using our left hand. This beat is in 4/4, and we'll just get started. So the way this song starts out is that basic beat, and it goes like this. And that's the general part for that part of the song.